Hey team, Master Schiele here. Today I want to talk about a subject that hits all of us martial artists at one point in our training, and that is bumps in the road and detours. Bumps in the road are these little inconveniences that happen to us that we just have to kind of ride out and wait till the road smooths out down the road. Detours are these times that can really throw our training off. So what I like to do is I like to be prepared for everything ahead of time. This way, if an emergency happens, I don't get thrown off course too bad. I want to share a little story with us before we move on to this subject. So this is a true story that happened to me. I bought a Mercedes-Benz, brand new Mercedes-Benz. I was very proud of it. And this was a time that I looked in the trunk. I go, where is my spare tire? They go, oh, if you have a flat tire, you hit this button in the car and someone will come up to you and they will help you on the road and you'll be back to normal. All right. So guess what happened? I got out of a store one day, I went to my car, I looked down and I see a flat tire. Well, I took their advice, I hit that button. Guess what happened? It was a Friday night, it was a long weekend where the dealership was closed. So I hit that button and the mechanic came to my car and he said, oh, we have to take it in because we don't have any tires, we don't have any access to tires, so you have to take it to the dealership and they're not gonna be open until Monday. So guess what happened? It was a Friday night when this happened. I had no car that weekend. Why? Because I depended on outside sources. I wasn't able to depend on myself. Now, after that, of course, I got rid of that car and I always make sure I have a spare tire. Why do I always want to make sure I have a vehicle with a spare tire? Well, it's very simple. It allows me to be in charge of my destiny. I don't have to rely on outside sources, right? So if I have a flat tire now, I can change it myself, right? And it gives me that opportunity. But if you don't have that, you are not in control of your destiny. You're not in control of what happens to you. So that car, as awesome as it was not very convenient because it made it very difficult for me that entire weekend because it threw me off. Now, if we prepare ourselves and we have that spare tire with anything that happens in our training, we're gonna be better prepared and we're relying on ourselves more than anything. And that's the key for it. So there's a couple things that I've seen through my experience in training that happen to most martial artists at one time. So let's hit it. The first one is time. So time is very simple. If you miss a class, you make it up another day. And you have to set yourself for that. You don't just miss that class and say, oh well. Here's the problem with that. If you miss one class, you say, oh well, yes, in retrospect, it's not gonna be too bad. But it becomes habit, right? And if you miss the one, and then you miss the next one, well, guess what? You missed a whole week of classes. Statistically in martial arts, and I've done this my entire life, if a student misses more than 2 weeks of training, guess what they wanna do? They wanna quit. Why? Because they lost that connection with the school. So it's very important you don't allow yourself to do that. So if you miss a class, have a makeup day, right? Have a plan set. If you go on Mondays usually and you say, I missed my class on Monday, but my backup plan, my spare tire is to go on a Tuesday, fantastic. That's your day. Makes it very simple. So time is the first thing. Now, if you can't make up that class, here's what I want you to do. I want you to do training at home that day, whatever it is. If there was an emergency, there was in our area here, we just had a huge blizzard, right? And obviously, if you can't go to class at a blizzard, right, what do? Well, you should train at home. Have a little backup plan. Here's what I recommend. Have a little piece of paper that you have that's a little personal training that happens for you in case of emergency. Maybe some slow kicks, maybe some forms, maybe some punches in the air. It's up to you what it can be. But what happens is it allows you to make up that class. Now, you proved to yourself, hey, I did it. I feel good, right? So time is the first thing. So your spare tires, I want you to have a backup plan in case you can't make it to class. Second thing, injuries. Now, injuries are something I hope never happens to you, but if it does, we have to have a backup plan for it. So the first thing I always tell my students is if you have an injury, you need to still be in class. You still need to be here. Why? Because you need the energy of your classmates. You need the energy of everything around you. And whenever I have a student that has an injury and they do that, guess what? They heal faster and they get back on the mats faster. Every single time. Guess what happens when I have a student that has an injury and they just disappear? chances are they don't come back. That's truth, right? So we have to have that backup plan, and you have to set in your mind, if, God forbid, you ever have an injury, I still want you to go to class, sit on the sidelines. Why? Because you're still feeling the energy, you're still seeing everyone, and you're part of it still. It helps. Trust me when I say that. So the first one was time, the second one was injury. The third one is the very obvious, motivation. Motivation is something that, there's days, if I was to point the camera right now, it's a gloomy day outside here, all right? It's rainy, there's not any ray of sunshine at all. However, we have to be prepared for that. I can't just allow myself to be affected by that. I have to keep going, right? So we have to understand that motivation is key. Whether it's our kids that are training or ourselves, we have to be prepared for that. So how do you get motivated? Well, guess what? You just have to do it sometimes, right? You have to go. And you wake up by doing that. There's so many times that we walk in the school and we don't have that motivation, but the minute we walk in, we feel that energy, we see everyone else around us, and it just wakes us up. And guess what happens? We feel better because we train. We feel better because we get out there every single time. So if motivation is there, our spare tire for this is just go to class. Just go. You have to force yourself, and this is where discipline kicks in. Whether you're a kid or an adult, discipline is key because it allows us to create that momentum to keep pushing forward, right? Now, of course, this video, I hope I'm speaking to martial artists. If you're not yet, do start martial arts. I always like to say that, right? But martial artists, we tend to think a little bit differently, right? We tend to really be goal-driven and motivation, but those are those times that really hit us. So we have to be prepared for it. So when those bumps in the road hit, those detours hit, we have to be proactive and not allow that to affect us. Because if we allow that to affect us, that's how we fall out. We never want that to happen. So if it happens to you, here's what I want you to do. We're going to be proactive. We're going to have a plan. We're going to have our spare tire. I want you to have a spare tire for anything and everything that you could think of. If there's something I missed, hit in the comments below, but don't just say what it is. Give something that you're going to do as well with it. So what is your spare tire if something happens in your training where you fall off course? What do you have? Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in our next video. Take care.